All right, Facebook, nice to see you tonight. We are going to talk about finding sustainability after we quit drinking alcohol. And what we're really going to talk about is like what it looks like long term, not short term. Okay, I do a lot of short term content, but I want to talk about like building a long term, sobriety plan, what that might look like. For those of you that aren't familiar with who I am, my name is Dylan Reed. I am a certified professional recovery coach. I have been helping people get sober for years all around the world and continue to do so. So, like I said, tonight we're going to talk about sustainability, because not everything that we do to get sober and stay sober in the short term is something that we're going to be doing forever. And we need to think about that as we're planning for the future, because that's one of the things that we need to work on the most when we get sober. Start to make plans, okay? It's not about chaotically living, figuring out how to live each day, like in the day, for me, okay? It is about charting a course, maintaining that course, building behaviors that we can sustain for a lifetime, ideally, So, yeah, there you go. When I say that, one of the things that I do catch a little bit of flack about is like, it can be useful to be able to be in the room with people who are drinking, right? It is a holiday right now where alcohol is often free flowing where we're going to go. So if you go to a Christmas party, you can't exactly expect the people at a Christmas party to not serve alcohol there. Granted, there may be social circles that you hang in where they don't drink, like if you go to some sort of 12-step Christmas party, things like that, people probably aren't going to be drinking. But most of the time here in the United States, I can't speak for everywhere in the world, and at least at pretty much every Christmas event I've ever been to, and when I say pretty much, I mean literally all of them, there's been alcohol involved. So when we're saying sustainability for long-term recovery, we need to be able to build systems in our life that allow us to be around drinking. So one of those things is having a game plan for when we do go to events where people are drinking. I have almost 6 years of sobriety at this point. I don't have to leave an event because people are drinking. It's not like a big enough trigger to me at this point that I've got to go. But in the beginning, there were some strategies that I'd used that people still use years and years and years down the road, and there's no shame in anybody that needs to still utilize some of these active strategies to stay sober. So what some of that looks like is having a plan before you go. And when I say having a plan, I mean, what are you going to do when you get there? Do you need to bring your own drinks? Is that something that's probably a good idea? For most people, it actually is. There's no host in the world that's going to get upset if you show up to their, get together with some drinks in hand. So bringing some sort of non-alcoholic beverage, that way that that there's something that you can drink that doesn't involve alcohol. Another nice thing is if you show up to the party with a drink in hand, a non-alcoholic drink in hand already, nobody's going to offer you a drink because you already have a drink. So you can avoid what could be a precarious situation for you when they're offering a drink to you. You don't have to deal with that. It's like you already have a drink, nobody asks you if you want a drink. Another thing is bring your own vehicle. If you have the ability to do so, bring your own vehicle so that you can leave whenever you need to go. You're at a Christmas party and you've got some uncle that's like annoying and triggers you, and he's frustrating, you have troubles emotionally regulating when he's around. You could just leave when it's time for you to go. Like, hey, I've had enough. It's time for me to get going. So having an exit strategy is important. And also having that boundary. A boundary is what you're willing to do with yourself. So if you find yourself in a moment where, hey, I'm stressed, I no longer want to be in this situation, tell everybody goodbye and go. Like that's something you can do. You're allowed to do that. And you should do that if you're having troubles, in the situation, maybe making you want to drink. Another thing that's really, really smart to do when you're creating holiday plans and you're going somewhere where people are going to drink is having a sober plan afterwards. Planning to meet a friend for coffee, after whenever the meal would be done. Going to a movie with someone, going over to someone's house, but having some sort of accountability buddy where you're going to go meet with somebody that knows that you don't drink and they're expecting you to show up and they're expecting you to be sober because you don't drink. And that helps to build this extra layer of accountability to yourself through another person. So those are some really, really wise things to do, but that is actually a long-term sustainability strategy. I often speak of it like you don't have to do it forever, but for some people, they want to do it forever, and that's fine. And the truth is, most of those strategies I still utilize. Like, I still like to bring my own beverage because I bring my water bottle with me everywhere. Like, it goes with me. This thing travels, so I don't have to worry about somebody offering me a drink when I go places. That's already inbuilt for me. I take my own vehicle places. I don't really like to get rides from people places because the truth is I want to be able to leave when I want to leave. I've spent enough of my life being trapped somewhere with somebody else because they drove that I don't really like to do that. Once I developed my own autonomy and the ability to just leave because I have a car, I just leave. So I like to be able to do that. I don't always implement that having a plan afterwards because I'm very, very comfortable in my sobriety at this point. I don't feel the need to build this layer of accountability where I'm going to meet with somebody afterwards. They're expecting me to be sober. Honestly, by the time I'm usually done with a social event, like, I want to go home and I want to go to bed. Like, that's it. And I've 100% left a situation because I was uncomfortable. Like, that is I'm not above that. Like, I'm sorry if some people think it's like rude to exit a social situation before it's over, but I don't owe anybody anything. If the welcome is, I feel like I've been there long enough, I'm gonna go. It's that simple. Some other things we need to think about long term is what does non-alcoholic drinks look like to you? I am a pure water guy. Like, I drink milk very, very infrequently. It's like water and protein shakes and electrolyte beverages. Like, that's it. I don't really wander out too far. But like, I wouldn't be above having a mocktail if somebody made it for me. Like, that's not something that's going to bother me. I know some people really enjoy that, and it's like an important part of their recovery is to have drinks that kind of mimic the experience because it's important to them in socializing, and that's okay. I could understand that it would make you more comfortable in a social situation where other people are drinking to have a drink in your hand that looks like you're drinking also. I could totally get that because it's kind of makes us feel like we're a part of the in group, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I also don't think there's anything wrong with the NA beers. That's people's prerogative. It's not something that I do personally, but the truth is there's just really not much data suggesting that it should cause you to relapse, and that's the truth. I have a comment coming in for anybody that's on here. If you have questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section. That's what it's here for. And if you have questions about anything that I'm talking about tonight, feel free to drop them and I can give you more details, or just something that you want to know about in general. Feel free to ask questions. That's what we're here for. We're socializing. This is a live stream. I'm here to engage with you. We are talking sustainability over the long haul. What does recovery look like 2, 3, 5 years later? I can't speak much more beyond that because I haven't been there, but I don't imagine, it gets too much weirder or wilder. Chancellor had said, "Hello, Dylan, you shared on your post a long time ago to always have a drink with you. And to this day, everywhere I go, I have a drink with me and some snacks. It's part of me." It's huge. Like, I've talked about this a lot. Hungry, angry, lonely, retired. 2 of those are really easy to manage. The hungry thing and the tired thing, because you can control how much you sleep, and you can deal with the hunger thing, right? Like, and thirst should be included with the hunger thing. Like, that should just be needing sustenance in general, but for the sake of of ease, we're just going to call it HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. But yeah, you can always have snacks in your backpack, in your car, in your purse, whatever you do. Then I think you should have a beverage with you. I think it's super important to haul water. Like, just in case, have some sort of fluid receptacle, Chancellor, thanks for sharing that, man. I really appreciate that. That's been useful to you. Kayla says, "I like mocktails." By the way, what's up, Chancellor? What's up, Kayla? Kesley, how's it going? Says, "I'm just sober person just for fun, and other people get uncomfortable if I don't drink." It's a weird thing, actually, that being sober in a room full of people who is drinking makes other people uncomfortable. but it also isn't that strange if we really just think about the tribalism that runs so deeply in humanity. We're looking for ways to quickly determine who is a part of the in-group and who's a part of the out-group. It's totally a survival thing. It is very difficult for us to rise above. I mean, we can respond differently in a situation, but we're going to make snap judgments based on previous experiences. And one of those things that we're doing is like deciding that anyone that's not like us is potentially a threat. Like, it's just the thing that we do. So if you are in a situation where everyone's drinking and you're the one that's not drinking and everyone knows that you're not drinking, they pretty much unconsciously have decided that they don't like you because you don't fit in, because you might be the one that's going to hurt them somehow. So yeah, that's where having a mocktail or drinking NA beers and stuff like is useful in that way. Also, like, you don't have to tell everyone that you don't drink. You don't. In the beginning, it can be a very useful thing because it creates a layer of accountability. You're letting your friends and your family know, like, I don't drink. Maybe you don't want to be around people when they're drinking. You don't want to go to events where people are drinking. But like in the long term, like it is a life choice that you don't have to share with everybody. You don't have to tell everybody that you CrossFit. You don't have to tell everybody that you're vegan. You don't have to tell everybody that you're sober. You don't have to tell everybody that you don't smoke cigarettes. You don't have to tell everybody all sorts of things. There's tons of details that you don't have to share with people just because you do this thing. So, and for the record, it will actually make your life easier in the long run, in my experience, to not have that conversation. Because if you tell someone that you don't drink, they're going to ask why. Most of the time, 9 times out of 10, somebody's going to ask you why you don't drink. And then you get to navigate that whole thing. And I've had some of the weirdest conversations in my life simply because I did disclose that I didn't drink. And then someone's trying to explain to me that their drinking is not a problem. And I didn't ask. So you can avoid all that. You can just avoid all that stuff by just not even bringing it up. Like, just being a human being, doing human stuff, and just live your dang life. You don't have to tell everybody that you don't drink. Like, you don't have to go into the room, hi, I'm Dylan, I'm an alcoholic. It doesn't have to look like that in any way, shape, or form. Chancellor says, my sister bought me a non-alcoholic Long Island, and it was delicious. And then I thought about how much I enjoyed a Long Island cocktail with alcohol, and I came to the conclusion that it is a trigger and a no-no, but I did enjoy the drink. Then that's it. I mean, that's it. You have to trust your personal experience more than anything else. And there are a bunch of people who agree that, hey, having this non-alcoholic beverage is too close to the real deal, and it just makes me want the real thing, so I'm not going to do it. And I think that that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, the thing about recovery is that it's a very, very individualized experience. I think that we all start in the same area, but you kind of get to know like what works for you and what doesn't work for you. If it doesn't work, stop doing it. I tell people over and over again, like, hey, I've been sober for a week. What should I do? Keep doing the same thing you did. The thing that you've been doing for a week has been working. So keep doing that. There's no reason to think that it would stop functioning, you know, and that's it. And every once in a while, life's going to throw you a curveball, and you're going to have to figure out how you're going to swing at it, and that's okay. But 9 times out of 10, each day, if you just did the same thing you did the day before, you're going to be just fine. Like, everything's going to work out. It's just that simple. Another thing that I personally, for me, doing 12-step programs, frequently attending meetings was not a long-term sustainable approach, because I wanted to do other things with my time. And that's just a reality. However we're going to live our life is how we're going to live our life. There are a lot of people who really love getting plugged into groups. My thing is, I had already served on three different boards of directors by the time I got sober. I'd been the president of 2 of them. One of them I sat as the secretary for 3 terms. I'm still on a board. I'm the secretary on a board still to this day. So the idea of me getting plugged into a home group and like, it didn't seem appealing. So then in many ways, the meetings weren't as valuable. The longer I was sober, the more it was like, hey, I don't actually need these constant reminders of what my life looked like. I don't need these constant reminders of, you know, doing the next right thing. I don't need all that stuff anymore. So I did other things with my time, because that's the thing that we have to recognize when it comes to addiction and getting sober and behaviors is all we're doing is we're all just here spending time. We all got the 24 hours, you know, you've heard it. We all have the same 24 hours. So you have to decide, what do you want to do with your time? You know, like it's really not that complex. So I decided that, hey, I don't actually want to go to meetings all the time. I would rather spend my time doing other things that I find are more valuable to me. And the thing is that if all the goal is for me to have recovered and to mature more, get better at regulating myself emotionally, develop deeper and healthier relationships with myself and with the individuals around me, if that is the whole purpose of life, then I'm doing okay at that at this point. I don't have to attend meetings. Instead, I do things like I do go to therapy, right? I read self-development books and put that stuff into practice. I do journal. I take care of myself physically, you know, like I want to live a very long life. I want to be able to see my grandkids and potentially great grandkids and all of that stuff. I want to do that. So instead of sitting in a chair for 3 or 5 hours a week, I spend that in the gym instead, you know, but I couldn't do both. It wouldn't be sustainable. And that's what we're talking about tonight is sustainability, you know, finding the things that work for you that you keep on doing in the long run. Chancellor says, no one asked me why I stopped drinking. They would say some stupid shit like, I don't know. I didn't know you had a problem with alcohol when the person didn't know me. You know, I've got that. I've even got that from people that like did know me. Part of it I've found is the generational thing. My friends who are older, and I am a Freemason and I'm a Shriner, so I have plenty of friends who are older, you know, like, and they come from an era where like, I don't know, they might have been living a life like I was to a certain degree. You know, the functional alcoholic was just, it was a thing. It was just a thing that was it was allowed. And that's often the argument people would make when I was like, no, like I had a serious drinking problem. They're like, nah, you went to work still. It's like, that's not, that is not the thing that decides whether I had a drinking problem or not. The thing that decides whether I have a drinking problem or not is me and my relationship with alcohol, and me deciding whether it's a good one or a bad one. And eventually I decided that it was a bad one and I had to do something about it, you know, and that's why we're now here talking about long-term recovery, you know, like what does sustainability looks like? What does sustainability look like in long-term recovery? What does it look like for me? What does it look like for some other people? Because I had a horrible relationship with alcohol. What I really had was a horrible relationship with myself when I was drinking alcohol, and then also a horrible relationship with other people because I had a horrible relationship with myself when I was drinking alcohol. And it's not like that anymore. But part of the things that I do when we're talking about sustainability, like I try to drink my gallon of water a day. You know, that for my size, that's about the right amount of fluids for me to drink every day. That is about sustainability. That is about me being able to live a long, happy, healthy life. It's about me giving my cells what my cells need. I generally try to eat healthier foods. No, not everything in my household is organic, and I sure do love me some cookies here and there. But the thing is like I am making probably 80 to 90% of my food choices are of a healthier choice, right? Like I'm not cooking everything in lard, and I am doing my best to take care of the food that I put into my body and my kids put in their body, right? I do exercise on a regular basis because I do, like I said, I want to live for a long time. But all of those things actually play into being sober. The reason they play into being sober is because I'm taking care of myself. I care about myself. I love myself. And I don't want to drink. I want to drink less and less and less all the time. Part of it is the fitness thing. Like I don't know. I haven't seen what my running coach has planned for me tomorrow, but it's probably like a 4, 5, 6 mile run in the morning. And I don't want to do that with a hangover. I don't want to do that on minimal sleep. I don't want to do that after, like, when I drank, I ate really poorly. And I don't know if anybody who has taken on fitness seriously, like, your food has a lot to do with how you can perform. Like, you really notice it when you are asking your body to do a lot. Like, oh crap, turns out that if I eat this food, I don't feel as strong the next day. So we're making all these choices. Well, you think that drinking is going to make me feel strong the next day when I'm out trying to run and I'm dehydrated? No, it's going to be horrible. And I live in Texas. I think about that all the time. If, like, I get borderline dehydrated running in the summer when I'm running when it's cooler, you know, get up at 6 o'clock in the morning so that I can run when it's only 70 or 75 degrees out. And I'm just like sweating bullets, you know. I couldn't imagine waking up after a night of heavy drinking and trying to go for a run. I can't even wrap my head around it. It would be insane and, quite frankly, dangerous to do something like that. So it makes it easy. Like, all of these things have synergy with one another. Like, if I wanted to drink, my brain's like, okay, maybe that's a good idea, but what about your kids? What about all this work you put into being sober, right? What about how you're gonna feel the next day? What about how, like, and not even until the next day. Like, I know from years of experience that drinking is a short-term payoff. Like, I can't, for like the last year and a half or 2 years of me drinking, I would have maybe at most a 30-minute window where things were like good. And I'm like glad that I drank. And then I spent the rest of the time that I'm drunk beating myself up for drinking, beating myself up for this, beating myself up for that. So that doesn't make me want to drink, you know? Like, all these things can layer on top of one another so that when you do want to drink, you're like, no, I don't want to drink because of this. 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 And that's how you build sustainability, by creating a bunch of different systems, a bunch of different layers in your life that just make it difficult for you to make the decision to drink. Because, like, that is the reality. Like, it would be a challenge for me to actually convince myself to drink at this point, because I have so many things that I potentially lose in the process. You know, like, I thought about this the other day. I was thinking about this. I was like, you know, 20 years down the road, I decide that I want to drink. My kids would all be on their own, ideally, at that point. I'm not really responsible for, I mean, I think you're really responsible for your kids your whole life, but, like, I'm not directly responsible for them anymore. And I drink. And what I realized is that that's going to erode trust with my children, because I've built, we have talked about alcohol, you know, like, we've talked about how it was a problem. They're too young to really understand exactly what that means. They'll know exactly what that means when I can explain that to them in a way that they can understand it. But, like, they know that it was a problem. They know that it's a poison. They know that it's bad for you. So for me to, like, they've known that their whole life interacting with me, and then one day I decide I'm going to drink. Like, what the hell, Dad? You know, what happened there? Like, that's just an interesting thing. So it's like, all those different things are these nice layers that help support sustainable recovery. I want to get some of these comments. Let's see. Chancellor says, the one thing I really admire about you, Dylan, is that you are not only an awesome sobriety coach, but you are an incredible dad. I appreciate that, dude. Being a dad is very central to my identity. Like, it is actually the role that means the most to me. I couldn't imagine not being a part of my kids' lives. Like, I couldn't. I went and got my son. He has a Christmas choir concert tomorrow, and I'm looking around and I don't see his Christmas sweater here at my house. So I text his mom. I'm like, hey, does he have his sweater at your house? And, like, they can't find it. So we don't know where a Christmas sweater is, but we know that he needs one tomorrow. So, like, I'm going out to get one, and I call a friend, and my friend's just like, dude, you're such a good dad. And I'm like, yeah, like, I appreciate that, you know, but, like, I think, like, to me, it's just the thing you do. Like, it's not optional. Like, my kid needs the thing to do the thing, so you do the thing that's required for the kid to have the thing to do the thing. Like, it's not up for debate about whether I will or will not do that. But as I understand it, and the more that I do talk to some of my female friends, like, there's a lot of guys out there that they don't do it that way. They don't see it that way. They don't feel as though it's their kids are their responsibility. And I think that that's a really weird thing. Like, they're part of their DNA came from me. They're part me. I'm responsible for them. I feel as though my life ended when theirs began. I will be honest, I didn't immediately adopt that as my MO, but in time I recognized, like, holy crap, dude, like, it's my job to make sure that they have the things that they need until they can take care of the things that they need on their own. It's my job to help them get the things that they need that they can't get on their own at this point. My son can't go to Walmart and go get himself a Christmas sweater. That's not a thing. So it's my job to do that. Like, it's just the way that it goes. So Chancellor, thank you. I appreciate that. Chancellor says, I ate to drink only. Other than that, I was on a liquid diet, alcohol. Yeah, been there, done that. And then, like, I got to the point where it was like, I ate less so that I could be more intoxicated. Like, and that's not a healthy thing to be doing. Chancellor says, I can't drink alcohol because I have plans, and drinking alcohol is not in my plans. I'm an advocate for the LGBT community, and a lot of people look up to me. Dude, that's cool. That's super duper cool. I think, like, one of the most important things that we can do, because we're talking sustainable recovery, right? Like, how do you do this, is to create identity, is to have identity, is to create a version of you that doesn't drink, right? So finding a thing that you enjoy doing in the community that connects you with other people and allows you to plug in with them is a super, super healthy way to be doing that. In many ways, that is actually what is occurring in 12-step programs for many people. And that's a reality, and that's just fine. That's part of what mutual support groups are about. But part of the reason that some people continue to make the decision to stay sober is because that is part of their identity. Like, hey, I am the chair. I chair this many meetings a week at AA. Well, like, you can't do both. Like, you shouldn't do both, right? You shouldn't be chairing meetings about the solution if you're still lost in the problem, right? So those things help us to create identities that support sobriety. Like, that's one thing. The word alcoholic, I do not refer to myself as that. Like, it's not really a thing. That pisses some people off. I quite frankly don't care, because I have a degree in human communication. That is what I went to school for. Understanding how language functions and how we interact with language and how it sculpts the way we see the world and the way we act in the world is my jam. So early on, this concept of having to label myself an alcoholic made no sense to me. It still makes no sense to me, with a caveat, okay? There is a level, like, there's this concept of, like, taking things back, right? So if you can take the word alcoholic and you can transmute its definition in your mind to, instead of someone who's in active use, to somebody who has transcended their addiction and they're recovered, that if that's what you can see as your identity when you label yourself an alcoholic, then it's gonna go just fine. But for most people, that's not what happens. Like, I hear people refer to themselves as a grateful alcoholic. Well, that is a completely different connotation. When you're referring to yourself as a grateful alcoholic, you're saying, like, I'm grateful for the experiences I had through active addiction because they've shaped me to who I am today, and I've done everything I can to clean up my side of the street and all of those things that come with it. But you're not just an alcoholic anymore. You've added a descriptive term to it that modifies the word alcoholic. So speaking of sustainable practices, like, I had to shed that as a part of my identity because it didn't make sense to me. I don't, when I think of myself and I put alcoholic with myself, I don't see myself as who I am today. I see myself as who I was when I was drinking. And I don't want to spend the rest of my life having this mental imagery of who I was when I'm referring to myself in the present, who I am today. Being an alcoholic was a state and not a trait. It's not something that I take with me for the rest of my whole entire life. I am just a guy. I happen to be a recovery coach, like, because it is something I am good at, But outside of that, I played a game with a nerdy thing that I do is tabletop miniatures, and I played a game of that with my friend today. We didn't at any point in time talk about my drinking problem. It was never a part of the conversation. We didn't talk about how I'm a coach. We didn't talk about alcohol. We didn't do any of that. I just lived my life doing a thing with a friend. Like that was just what we did. That's an important part of what is sustainable for me, is to get well away from the problem and be like, that's not who I am anymore. I think it's important in my recovery. Kayla says, learning who you are after getting sober is one of the scariest and amazing things. However, finding your identity is the best part. That I would agree. I mean, I'm still, years later, I think still finding little pieces of me here and there, realizing that like maybe I don't actually like this thing. Even things that I started doing after I got sober, and it felt good for a while, and then now it doesn't. And like I think it's important to recognize that identity is it shifts, it changes. That's a part of it. Like I can't be who I am supposed to be today without leaving behind who I was. That's my experience. I can't live in nostalgia land if I want to get to a future that doesn't look like the past. That's been my experience. If I hold on to the past, I'm recreating a future that looks like it. I'm trying to shape a future that looks like something I've already had. And granted, the thing that I've already had might be something good. That's probably why I have nostalgia for it. It's something that feels good, or at least I remember it as being good and I want to create it again. But that's not how this works. And I think for me, it's been important to let go of all of those things. It's not been of any utility for me to hold myself, like to continue to harm myself because of the things that I've done in the past. That doesn't mean that like I'm not going like, hey everyone, I'm glad I was a drunk because like it's who I am today. Like yeah, I'm grateful for who I am today, but that doesn't mean that we have to like, they're thought-stopping cliches. Like if I say like it is what it is, or like it's all better in the end, or that kind of stuff, it makes it to where we don't hold ourselves accountable for the decisions that we made. That the truth is they probably hurt people. So you have to think about this. If I say to somebody like, it's all good because like I'm sober now, you're telling someone that your experience of it and how you're better now is more important than what you might have put them through. And that's not how that works. Like we don't get to go like, well, I'm glad that bad thing happened because I learned my lesson. Like, okay, you can be, but you don't get to force that on the people that might have been involved that were at, like the stepping stones for you to learn that lesson. It doesn't work that way. So when I say leaving the past behind, it doesn't mean like, hey, that never happened. It's like, hey, I acknowledge what happened, and you might have to have some hard conversations with some people about what happened, but it is letting that go and allowing yourself to become who you're going to become instead of trying to recreate a maybe different version of who you were. Let's see. So yes, Kayla, I do agree with you. Finding yourself it was so hard for me in the beginning. And in many ways, I did exactly what I'm telling you that maybe you don't want to do because I didn't know what else to do, which is why I do suggest to people like maybe don't do that, because in many ways, who I quickly started to become after I got sober was who I was before I became a drunk. It's like I didn't, and you'll hear this, like I didn't mature at all during that time. And like, that's not true. I still learned lessons. There was still some maturing that happened. It was just a different kind of maturing. But now that I've shed that, it's like, well, I don't know who I am now. And the reason that we feel like we don't know who we are is because we're not who we were anymore. If I don't drink alcohol anymore, then what do I do? Who do I hang out with? What are the things that I'm interested in? I don't know. For many, many people, the things that we become interested in have to do with alcohol, right? So if you lose that, then it's like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do now. No idea what I'm going to do now. So then we think about the things that have made us happy, things that we did enjoy. And a lot of it's going to be things that we already did. And that's okay. So go feel some of those out. Maybe you do still enjoy them. Maybe you're like, oh, I really outgrew that thing. I'm really not interested. Why did I even like that in the first place? That's okay. Like, I feel that way, for the most part, with video games. It's like, I used to be able to spend a lot of time playing video games before active addiction and during active addiction. Now that I'm sober, my brain won't let me do it. It's like, no, dude, we got things to do. Like, you're really going to spend 3 hours doing this today? I'm like, well, I want to. And it's like, no, we're not doing that. You know, I do every once in a while allow myself to do that, but I can't do it like I used to. And I tried to do it like I used to when I first got sober, and I just couldn't do it. And I had to be like, well, why did I like this? Well, part of it was I was a kid. When I was a teenager and preteen, I didn't have the nagging, like, hey, you got laundry to fold going on in my head. Hey, you've got things to do because your kid's got school tomorrow. Like, I didn't have that going on, and I do now. So it's just a different time, and that's okay. Let's see, let's get back to some more comments. If you guys are new here, I'm taking comments, questions, all that stuff in the comment section. So if you want to interact, you have questions about recovery, issues that you're dealing with, family members are dealing with, anything like that, feel free to drop comments in the comment section and I will address them tonight. Chancellor says, how is the weather in Texas and why do you have your hat on? The weather in Texas is cold today. My heater is on now. I don't know. I think when I left the house, because I went to Walmart to pick up my son's Christmas sweater, it was 40 degrees, I think, which, I mean, I know where you're at. You're over in the Midwest, Eastern area, Northeast. It's colder there. I get that. And I'm from Wyoming, so I know what like real cold can be like, but I've gotten very comfortable with it not being cold since living in Texas. So I'm cold today, right now. Like, I woke up cold. I've been cold all day. It was 30 degrees when I got up this morning. So that's why I have a hat on, because the weather's cold comparatively. And Chancellor says, I completely agree. I tell my sister I don't count my dad's sober because I'm looking forward, my day is sober because I'm looking forward to being sober tomorrow and the next day. Yeah, I don't, I mean, that's another thing to think about as far as sustainability is concerned. I don't know how many days I've been sober. I don't have a sober app that's tracking that. I do literally have I programmed a sober app because I have a Discord community. We had a sober tracker because a lot of people do really value that, and I think that's totally okay. But our sober tracker, like, whoever created it just decided that it was going to go away. So I had to learn Python to code my own tracker. So I created a sobriety tracker. So, like, I do actually have a tracker that does track my days, but I don't regularly check in with it. Usually what will happen is there's a couple other people in that community, they'll check in, and it reminds me that I maybe should check in, so I'll check in. But I know that my sobriety date is on or around the 25th of February. That's it. Like, that's it. So I guess I'm counting years at this point. But the days thing I did for a little while in the beginning, and then eventually it was like, for me, I don't see a need to count how many days I've been sober, because the number of days that I will be sober is from when I got sober until I die. So there's not really, like, the number doesn't matter to me because it's just going to keep going up, and I get that. So, like, I have a PR every single personal record every single day because I'm just going to keep on adding more numbers to it. So it seems unnecessary to me to count every single day. There was a guy when I was like 2 years sober. Yeah, I think it was like 2 years sober. He and I were talking, and I said that, I was like, it's really weird, like, at my 1 year thing, I made this post, and, like, how life is so different and all that kind of stuff. And that was like, I was still pretty closeted about being sober. Definitely wasn't as outspoken as I am today, that's for sure. But I had told him, I was like, I was like, I don't really feel like doing anything. It's like I've been sober for 2 years. Like, it's not really that big of a deal anymore. And he explained to me that it's not, if it's a big deal to me, it's that it's a big deal to somebody who wants 2 years someday. It's a big deal to somebody who's having troubles getting sober to be able to see that it's possible and that long-term recovery is something that's achievable. So I will always share my sober anniversary because there's someone out there that needs to know that another year is possible. There's someone who just got, this year will be 6 years. So there's somebody who just recently hit 5 years who's struggling. It's like, I just don't know if I could do 6 years. And they see that someone did 6 years and they go, 6 years is possible. If he could do it, I can do it. Those kinds of things. But other than that, I don't see any utility for myself personally to do that. Yeah, Chancellor says Chicago below 0. I know you live in Chicago. I didn't want to out you specifically where you live. Kayla Moore says you're getting Wyoming temps. I am not. We're not getting Wyoming temps at 30 here in Texas. Like, my daughter had a birthday party yesterday, and I gave a friend of hers needed a ride to the birthday party in order to attend. So I drove my daughter and her to this place that we had the birthday party. And I'm just listening to them chat away in the back seat the whole time that we're driving. I'm talking to them some. We're having a good time. And like, her friend's talking about how she can't wait till it snows this year, which like it might not. I mean, it doesn't snow every year here in Dallas. But she's like, my dog really misses the snow. My dog's going crazy without the snow. And I'm like, what? How long have you lived in Texas? Like, what are you talking about? It's little girls talking, right? But like, they don't understand that, like, even though it was cold today and it was cold the last 2 days, snow doesn't happen till it's like colder, and it doesn't get that cold here that often. So no, it's not Wyoming temps. It is freakishly strange when we get anything close to what a Wyoming winter temp is like. I explained to my kids that like it was common to have, you would have below freezing temperatures for like months, multiple months on end. And you might in that period of time have weeks where it's below 0, and they're like, what? I don't understand. How did you survive? They're like, how did you not die? I'm like, we wear coats. You wear long johns under your jeans, like you wear overalls. But yeah, this is way off topic anyways. But yeah, so getting back, course correcting back to, sustainability, like long-term recovery, that like I think the counting days thing was an important thing to talk about because it was useful. It was useful to me in the beginning because it was a way for me to keep track of like, I'm doing this. Like, it's telling my brain, like it was reassuring to myself, and it was like positive reinforcement. Like, the number's getting higher, but the longer I've been sober, it's just not meaningful in the way that it used to be meaningful, and that's okay. So then I'm saying that to say that, like, if that's what my sobriety was founded on, was just counting the days, like, Houston, we got a problem now. So for sustainable practices, we need to be thinking about other things that help us stay disciplined, not motivated, because motivation's a myth, but disciplined. Like, how do you build a routine that makes sense? Maybe for somebody, every day I write down on a calendar, like, hey, this is day number whatever, and that's a part of the routine, and that can make sense, right? But it doesn't have to be like that. That's what I'm saying. Janet says -15 here in Ontario, Canada. By the way, you rocked the cupcakes. What did your daughter think? 3 weeks in and still not touching alcohol. -15 Fahrenheit or Celsius is a question I always have. I appreciate the cupcake comment. That was the first time I've ever actually tried to like frost cupcakes, because I almost always have done the baking of the cakes and the cupcakes, but I was just like smeared frosting on. And this year I was like, I'm gonna actually try to like do this thing. She liked them a lot. She ate hers and then quickly forgot that they existed and went and played at her party, because that's what they do. But she seemed to enjoy it. And I just want to say congratulations on the 3 weeks. It is a really, really big deal. Those, for me, those were the hardest times. It has gotten only easier and easier and easier and easier the longer I've been sober. So, congratulations, good job. Allison says, how many years did you drink? And did you ever develop any liver issues? I hope this is appropriate to ask. That's 100% appropriate to ask. That is, for anyone that ever, I hope that anyone that ever sees that, that's ever wondering, this is exactly the type of stuff that is appropriate to ask. There really isn't anything inappropriate to ask. And if there is something that's inappropriate to ask, I'll just let you know. You know, there's I had somebody yesterday had kind of asked some questions about the kid's mom and I and our separation, and let them know, like, hey, that's not something that it's not germane, you know. But that's 100% appropriate to ask. So I started drinking when I was 15, and I drank until I was 32. So for 17 years. And when I say I started drinking when I was 15, it wasn't like drinking a beer here or there, like every month or so. It was like at 15, 16, I was drinking every weekend, you know, and by the time I was 18, I was drinking on more, like actually not even 18. When Halo 2 came out, I had dropped out of high school, and I remember drinking a case of beer with a friend. Both of us were like, we didn't go to school, and we played video games and just pounded beer all day. So it's like I was drinking like an idiot in my early teens. You know, Halo 2 came out when I was like 16, maybe 17 years old. Yeah, I was not smart, but the developing liver issues thing, yes, 100%. I developed jaundice, had a bilirubin level that's 20 times what is a normal tolerance, normal range. This would have been in November of 2019. So like my skin was completely yellow. My eyes are yellow. I went to the hospital. I had alcoholic fatty liver. I had elevated ALT, AST, like all the liver enzyme levels were not where they belonged. So yes, I did have liver issues. I've corrected them since then. I didn't this year, but I usually get a blood panel every year and have them just check, because it's like this me making sure everything's still okay thing. But yeah, no, I did some damage over the years of drinking. And it's shockingly, turning yellow like a Simpsons character was not enough to get me sober. It was for a little while, but it wasn't the last time that I decided to drink. Chancellor says, I think that people that count days kind of set themselves up for really bad relapse because they feel like they failed as opposed to thinking about the time they had sober. Yeah, I agree with you, Chancellor. There's a lot of us that try to help people reframe that, because I'm in a lot of different sobriety groups. I don't post in them so much. I just post on my profile for the most part. But when you see somebody who's like, you know, I was sober for this long and I relapsed and I feel so bad, there's a bunch of us that try to get them to reframe it and like, hey, like, don't see it as like I lost this many days or I failed. See it as like you have this much experience with what sobriety can look like. You went out, you did a little bit more field research to determine that like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And you just take the experience that you had and you move forward, and you accept the reality of the choice that you made, and you continue to make better choices after that. That's all. I think that's the healthiest way to do it. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Chancellor. Teresa, hello, Teresa. Nice to see you on tonight. She says, hi, Dylan. How long did you drink, and how long sober, and how old are you? I drank for 17 years, and I have been sober for almost 6 years, and I will be 38 in April. So yeah, there's the answer to your questions. Chancellor says, alcohol affects the entire body, and it gets worse the more you drink. Yeah, that's it. It's just a poison. Like my kids yesterday, we were talking about hand sanitizer, and they were saying how it makes you sick if you drink it. And I was like, well, you know what it is, right? And they're like, no. I was like, it's like alcohol. A lot of it is alcohol. And they're like the stuff you drink? And I was like, I mean, yes, but no. Like, you don't want to drink it, but it just kills germs. Alcohol does the same thing, right? When I got sober, it was COVID era. And this was, you want to talk about being triggered. Where I lived in a place called Casper, Wyoming, and there's a distillery there. And this distillery was using I don't know, some sort of byproduct from producing alcohol to help make hand sanitizer. So every Walmart got it donated to them. Not even just Walmart, but just stores in general. But Walmart was the store I frequented the most. It smelled like tequila. The hand sanitizer smelled just like tequila. So it's like you go into Walmart, they have you wash your hands. You know, everyone had to sanitize their hands. We were all in a line to be able to go in and everything. And it was wild. It's like, God, you want to talk about being triggered? It just smells like you're like tequila. It was crazy. Let's see. Teresa says, did you drink every day? I did. I mean, I didn't drink every day when I was 15 or 16, but my drinking escalated. And then it did some ebbing and flowing over the course of my drinking. I would have seasons where I drank every day. I always drank on the weekends I don't even know. I mean, of course there were some weekends or days here that I might have missed here and there, but in the end, yeah, I drank a fifth of whiskey every single day for I don't even know how long before I got sober. But there was years and years where there wasn't a day that even if I was sick, I'd be sick, I was still drinking. It didn't matter. Yeah, just not smart. Wanda said, I had yucky stomach issues and bad bloating, normal bathroom habits now, and lost 45 pounds. February is a year. Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, I mean, all of us have GI issues of some sort from alcohol. There's just no way around it. And the bloating thing is a big deal. I had a distended abdomen. I didn't develop ascites or anything like that, which is cool, but it was not cool. Chancellor says, you look fabulous, Dylan. I don't care how long you drank. Keep up the amazing work. I appreciate you. Yeah, no, I get that every once in a while. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. I think I do actually chalk it up to the fact that when I got sober, I made huge changes to my life. I started taking fitness very seriously. I haven't worked out every day. And I can't even say that I worked out 5 times a week every week since I got sober. But I have worked out probably 75 to 80% of the time since I got sober. Had a routine and been taking care of myself. And I've always eaten pretty decently since I got sober. I eat a lot better in the last couple years because I started to learn more about nutrition so I could start to take it more seriously. I drink a lot of water so I stay hydrated. I take my vitamins, I take fish oil, I take some cranberry. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. I don't drink. So I really think that most of the people that I know who haven't aged, to be politely, haven't aged as well, still most of them have some sort of vices. They still smoke cigarettes, they still drink. I'm not saying that they have real disordered behavior with these things, but they're doing things to their body that don't support their body taking care of itself. So I think it ages people. So I really appreciate the fact that in my early 30s, it was get sober, start caring about yourself, take care of yourself. And I feel like it's done me favors in a lot of different ways. I went and volunteered at my kids' school on Friday, and I'm running around with these kids on the playground, actually actively playing with them, and there's a lot of parents that don't do that. There's no offense to a lot of the dads, but they're not in the kind of shape to be able to participate in kids' games. And that's just a fact. I think that's super important. I want to always be able to wrestle my kids. I never want my kid to be able to beat me up. Obviously I don't want to bite my kid, but the day that my kids stop looking up to me as a role model is the day they start looking up to somebody else. And I don't want my kids looking up to someone else's dad as a role model. I don't want them looking up to some YouTube star. I don't want them, I mean, I can't best Superman necessarily, but my kids know that's BS, right? But as far as human role models are concerned, I want to be the role model in their life. And I feel like I can't be the role model if I don't take care of myself. Because then they're going to look at somebody else that does take care of themselves. So, no. Yeah, there you go. I've been on for an hour. I am not going to stay on all night tonight. I've been on for an hour and a half or 2 hours for like a while now. So yeah, I'll take this last comment that came in, but I'm gonna call it a night so that I can get some rest. I gotta go for a run in the morning. Teresa says, you're still really young. You should be really proud of the person you are. I appreciate that, Teresa. Yeah, I think I had a friend last night that asked me how old I was, and I told her, she told me she had a sibling that has the same birthday that I do. I was like, that's my birthday. And then she asked how old I was going to turn, and I told her, and she was like, you're almost out of your 40s. How do you feel? And I was like, I don't feel anything about it. Like, I still feel really young. I'm not worried about turning 40, because to me, 40, I hope, isn't even halfway through the rest of my lifetime. So it's like, oh, big deal. I haven't even made it halfway through the game yet. Like, no biggie. I recognize that. Like, I remember there was this super interesting moment. Like, I was in a meeting one time, and there's this kid, he's 21, and I guess he has some sort of metabolic issue where he can't process alcohol. Like, if he barely has any, it makes him sick as if he drank a whole lot. And he was complaining about it. He was like, I can't even like live a normal life and drink like normal people. And it was like when he said that, it was like in my world, you could hear the record skip, like, what did you just say? You're 21 and you're upset because alcohol can't ever become like a huge problem in your life. And I'm not saying that it wasn't a problem in his life. Obviously it created some sort of problem in his life, but it's like, man, all I was thinking was like, I wish something happened to me when I was 21 that I had to get sober. That's like 10 years of doing this that I wouldn't have had to do it, because I had a severe drinking problem by the time I was 21. Like, I had a severe drinking problem by the time I was 18. I lived on my own immediately after my senior year in high school, like that summer. And best believe what we were doing was partying. Like, I had a roommate. That's all we did. It was like drink and smoke weed. Like, that was not good. Did that clear until like my mid to late 20s. And then it was just nothing but alcohol after that. Yeah, would have loved at 21 to make that decision. So yeah, I recognize that I'm pretty young doing what I'm doing, but I wish everybody did. I 2 more comments and I'm going. Okay, guys, this is it. Chancellor says, every day I drank was a weekend, even on Monday, because I hated Mondays because I drank all weekend and I felt like shit, and drinking alcohol was the only thing to get me going. Go figure. That was my whole life. It was like, especially in the end, the reason I drank a 5th of whiskey every day is because I drank from sunup to sundown, because I felt like shit from drinking from sunup to sundown the day before. And I just kept doing it. I just kept putting off a hangover, which then I paid for with like extreme withdrawals, yeah, not cool. Let's see. I started drinking in 1999 after my divorce. Started slowing down in 2016. I was able to keep in control by drinking every few months, but last month I got a bad stomach ache. Went to the ER. Elevated ALT scared me so bad, and lipase was high. I haven't drank since. More CT scans coming up in 2 weeks. I'm scared. I'm really scared. I'm thinking the worst, of course. So for me, it's a health scare, and it's definitely made me quit drinking. Anyways, thank you for sharing your experience. Have a good evening. Yeah, no, I mean, good. Be scared. Stay scared. Like, continue to stay scared and continue to stay sober. I hope that everything's cool on your CT scans. I do want to point out, like, the human body's incredible. Just, I want you to think about that. Like, there have been people who have been like told, like, they're like end stage cirrhosis and they've come back through like diet and exercise and stuff. I'm not a medical professional. I've talked about that a lot, but I'm saying that those stories do literally exist. Like, they're medically documented stories where they're end stage cirrhosis and like their liver completely like heals itself. Like, it's cool. So whatever you've got going on, call it a miracle or whatever, but like these things happen. I firmly believe that if you stop putting in your body the things that make it difficult for your body to like body, it can do some pretty cool things for itself. It has to. It wants to live. It wants to live. If you want to live and you give it the fuel for it to take care of itself, it can do some cool stuff. So like, fingers crossed. I hope it's nothing. Chancellor said I would love that problem. That's exactly what I thought with that kid. Like, oh no, poor you, you can't drink. And I'm over here like, I want to not drink, but I can't seem to stop myself from drinking, you know, like so weird. Anyways, guys, I will not be on tomorrow night. I won't be on again until Wednesday. I've got my kids for a couple evenings. So until we meet again, I hope everybody does super duper well. Start this week off strong. Remember that tomorrow doesn't start in the morning, it starts tonight. So plan that morning out and let's just go do an excellent job this week. Have a good one. Bye.